Time for the tip-off had come and gone, but the court remained empty and no one was on the benches at the arena in Orlando, Florida. It should have been Game 5 of the Milwaukee Bucks playoff series against the Orlando Magic. But the team never left the locker room. Its athletes were protesting against the police shooting of a 29-year-old black man, Jacob Blake, in Kenosha, Wisconsin. In demonstrations that followed, 2 protesters were killed by a white gunman. The players say taking a knee isn't enough.
Over the last few days in our home state of Wisconsin, we've seen the horrendous video of Jacob Blake being shot in the back 7 times by a police officer in Kenosha, and the additional shooting of protesters. Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action, so our focus today cannot be on basketball.
Following the player statement, the NBA postponed all 3 playoff games scheduled on Wednesday. In March, it had postponed its entire season after a player tested positive for COVID-19. NBA play only returned last month with a reduced schedule and a reduced number of teams. After missing out on live sports for months, nearly 3.5 million fans tuned in to watch the league return. That's more than double its usual viewers. The NBA nets $8 billion a year through TV rights, ticket sales and merchandise. From women's basketball to baseball and soccer, other leagues have cancelled their matches too. Tennis star Naomi Osaka also withdrew from a tournament in New York just hours after reaching the semi-finals.
Before I'm an athlete, I'm a black woman. And as a black woman, I feel as though there are much more important matters at hand that need immediate attention, rather than watching me play tennis.
Analysts fear these disruptions will have major financial consequences for teams, sponsors and broadcasters. Shares in online betting houses DraftKings and Penn National Gaming are down since the Bucks' announcement. But for many athletes, the money lost is meaningless, as long as millions of lives remain at risk due to racial injustice. Sibel Karkus, TRT World.
Let's get more on this now with Larry Ivory in Peoria, Illinois. He's chairperson of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to the program, Larry. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks boycott marks an historic turning point in athlete activism, doesn't it? Because never has anything like this happened in US sports before. Now, I just want to read out what Bucks point guard George Hill said. He said in a statement, "We're tired of the killings and the injustice." What's your reaction to what the Bucks did and what other sporting codes have also done?
You know, I can tell you that we are extremely proud of the stance that the athletes have taken. For too long, I think we have just kind of tolerated, and the amount of anxiety that a black male has in America is absolutely incredible in terms of their life, in terms of the frustration. And so I couldn't be more proud of the athletes for taking a stand and standing up and saying enough is enough. America needs to take a real serious look at racial injustice and economic injustice in the United States of America.
Now, we're hearing now that NBA players have voted to resume the playoffs after this protest, but it is quite significant that the NBA headquarters moved to support this strike by cancelling all of the games on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm wondering, what do you think of how the NBA as a corporation has supported the Black Lives Movement?
Well, you know, I don't think in the past they did nearly enough. I'm proud of the work that they're doing right now in terms of supporting the strike, and that's encouraging. But I think there's a lot of, you know, it's one thing for us to kind of mention the things they're doing. It's another thing when they start to really make the investment that they should have made in Black lives and Black people. And when you take a look around the country, corporations benefited from slavery. We built this country, 4 million slaves at the peak of slavery, and we gave a lot to this country. And quite frankly, I think there's an enormous amount that this country owes Black people. And the only way we're going to get that is by standing up, being vocal, and taking a real hard stance on where we're at right now in America. And there's no other way to get it done. This country was built on setting up and fighting for injustice. You know, the whole point of us a dictator in overseas, and they fought for their independence. We're fighting for equity and fairness, and we're going to have to continue to fight, and we're going to have to continue to take bold steps and not be afraid, because in the past, I think people were too afraid of the consequences. But I think now with the Black Lives Movement and everything else, that people are beginning to understand that enough is enough, and we're going to stand up and speak out.
Now, it's interesting also that these boycott and strike movements aren't being engineered in boardrooms. The corporate logos aren't being splashed all over what they're doing. They're being started by the professional athletes themselves, even risking millions of dollars in revenue for the players themselves. I'm wondering, what can the rest of corporate America learn from what these players and some of these associations are doing?
Well, I think they can learn from the fact that, quite frankly, is that they can take a look at athletes who have a lot to risk and who are giving up a great deal of money, and that money is not as important as the mission at hand to save the innocent killing of Black people. And I think that we ought to follow suit. Everyone ought to follow suit in doing something about it, calling out racism. Corporate America needs to give back and do more business with Black businesses. They need to make commitments of employment. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that is happening, but it's surely not enough, in my opinion. So, as I've said before, I couldn't be prouder of the athletes who've taken a stance and made their voices heard, because too often their voices have not been heard, and they have so much influence that I'm asking other entertainers, everybody, to stand up and let's make America the great country it has the capacity to be. And it's only going to happen when we all stand up and speak out. And we definitely appreciate you guys covering this very important topic.
Okay, Larry Ivory from the National Black Chamber of Commerce, thank you again for joining us on the program.